Good evening, everyone. We're going to let more folks come in and then we'll get started. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We are so excited to have you all here tonight. My name is Joelle Chen, pronouns she, her, and I'm one of our Associate Directors of College Counseling at the Berkeley Carroll School. I'll be serving as the moderator for the evening. So thank you so much for devoting your time to join us for the Historically Black Colleges and Universities panel hosted jointly by the Berkeley Carroll School, Brooklyn Friends School, Packer Collegiate Institute, and St. Anne's School. We are joined by students and families from all four of our respective institutions, and we are especially happy to be in collaboration together in this space. So tonight we'll be hearing an array of different experiences from our 5 panelists consisting of current students and working professionals who will all highlight the importance of higher education at a historically Black college or university. I know on a Tuesday during this time of year, it's extremely busy for our students, our families, working professionals, and your participation and dedication are much appreciated. I also like to give a very special thank you to our panelists for volunteering to be part of this event. It means so much to us and me personally, and we are very excited to witness and learn more about your academic and professional experiences. So our goal today is that wherever you and your family are in preparation for the college search, applications, that you will come away with a newfound or strengthened understanding of what it means to attend an HBCU. So whether it's learning about a new institution, the academic and social opportunities available to students, or the rich culture and history that permeates these institutions, we hope that this intimate conversation provides you all with valuable insight. So here's the agenda for tonight to give you an idea of what to expect. So we'll take a few moments for each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about where they attended or where they are attending college, what their major or profession is. And then I'll kick off the conversation by asking questions that highlight the HBCU experience. And then finally, we'll open up the virtual floor to you all to give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions. So feel free to share your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom screen throughout the panel, and we will do our best to get to them. All right, sounds good? So let's get started with the panel introduction. So panelists, as you turn on your cameras and mics, I'm gonna have you all introduce yourself. So if you can say your name, where you are currently attending college or your alma mater, what your major was in college, what your profession is now, and if there's other aspects of your identity that you would like to share with this group. And again, thank you all so much for spending your Friday, if only Tuesday evenings with us. So Marcus, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, thank you, Joelle. Good evening, everybody. My name is Marcus Hundley. I am a graduate of Morehouse College. I graduated in 2020. I'm an account executive with the Association for Talent Development. I was a part of various groups at Morehouse. I got a couple of internships that Morehouse definitely helped me get and really structured where I wanted to be within my next few years out of college. And I am just happy to speak with you guys and give any type of advice or share some of my stories that I had highlighting my excellent school.
Thanks, Marcus. Ahmad, I'm going to go to you next.
All righty. Nice to see everybody. My name is Ahmad Lumumba Whitaker, pronouns he, him. I am a current Howard University student, a current senior with a major in computer information systems focused in cybersecurity. I am a triple legacy at Howard University, but I'm also the president of Howard University's Esports Association. I look over 395 people as today, and making sure that we win matches, we bring home money. Last semester, we took home 117,000 as an org, trying to make sure that everyone's having fun, everyone can find a place to chill and hang. And that's where I am today. I'll show you guys a little lab. Everyone is playing, chilling. I'm watching over them. They are my kids. I call them my kids. So yes, it's nice to meet everyone, and I'm excited to talk about my story.
Thanks, Ahmad. Chloe, I'm going to go to you next.
Greetings, everyone. I am Chloe Roguinness. I am a recent grad of Florida A&M University. I majored in political science, so right now I'm in the process of applying for law school. So I'm going through that whole process right now. Graduated from the #1 public HBCU in the nation. So we brag different over here, FAMU Rattlers, we have a lot of pride. So yes, I'm super excited to tell you guys about my story and how I grew at FAMU.
Thank you, Chloe. I always love chatting with HBCU alums because they go hard for their schools. I've never seen alums go harder. Chloe. Oh, apologies. I said Chloe. Brittany, if you would feel comfortable going next.
Hi, I'm Brittany Atkins Williams, and I graduated from St. Augustine's University in the year of 2006. I also attended Morgan State University as well. My major was computer science. I'm currently the Assistant Director of Technology at Brooklyn Friends School, and I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I won't do too much. And again, we can discuss more about my experience at 2 HBCUs and public versus private. It'll be a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Brittany. And Lizette.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Liz London. I'm a 2017 graduate of Spelman College. I was a women's studies major. I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta. I am a 2020 graduate of NYU, Gallatin School of Individualized Study, where I made my own major, Black Feminist Visual Arts and Cultural Studies. And currently I'm a first-year doctoral student in the African American Studies Department at Emory University. And I'm the proud daughter of a Filipino city girl from Manila, and my dope dad from Jacksonville, Florida, who's a transplant in New York. So yeah.
Thank you, Liz, and shout out PhD. Well, thank you all so much again for joining us. So, as I mentioned before, we are a mix of 4 Brooklyn independent schools that are historically or predominantly white institutions. And so for a lot of our students, they're coming from that space and potentially considering that transition to an HBCU. So if we could go back around, I'd love to know, what was the high school environment, if you remember it? I know it's been a while for all of us. What that high school environment was like for you, and kind of that transition into attending an HBCU. Might have been similar, might have been different. So I'll start again with Marcus.
My high school experience was definitely a lot different. I had, a good blend of, people from out of the country, but also white people and Black people being, very, very frank. But I think the adjustment of going to Morehouse and being around young Black men who had the same aspirations as me, the same type of work ethic, and everybody had to get to where we are, through a process and not just where we live. I feel as though that is why most of my friends really came from there, and us all being together every day, fried chicken Wednesdays or Market Fridays, that just really builds a bond, and especially us being in the same classes and getting into the same internships even. So that was definitely a great experience. But you guys will all have your own stories that are similar to mine. So
nice. How about for you, Ahmad? Did you feel like it was a stark transition from your high school, or was it pretty similar?
That's a good question. So I went to Enloe High School, Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh born and raised. My high school had about 2,700 people. I want to say at that time. Very diverse school, number one school for diversity. Um, but I guess I didn't really high school wasn't really what I used to get the experience of HBCU. Being a
Mm.
legacy and all, I was of course visiting with my brother, because he went before me, 3 years older than me. And then of course having my dad go there, I was always visiting as a kid. But it wasn't really even those. It was more so the things that my mom was putting me in terms of extracurriculars. My mom had me in so many extracurricular things that had to do with Black people in STEM. I was always getting some type of exposure to people that looked like me and did things that I like to do as I grew up. And so as time went on, I got to Howard and it was like, yeah, this feels like home. Like this is not too different. Honestly, it felt better than home. I felt way better than high school because it's like everyone that I'm used to seeing in the spaces that I want to see them was there. So it wasn't too much of a stark difference for me. But it was definitely special. It was definitely exactly where I wanted to be at. Whether it was Howard, Tuskegee, FAMU, Morehouse, they're all wonderful schools. And I was planning on going to any of them that I got into, because I definitely didn't expect to get into Howard. I'll tell you that. So yeah.
Thanks, Ahmad. And how about you, Chloe?
All right. So I actually came from a high school that was more so a PWI. So in my high school, they didn't really highlight HBCUs for real. I didn't even know what an HBCU was. And that's crazy because I'm from Orlando, Florida, and FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, they always have something every year in Orlando called the Florida Blue Classic. I've never heard of it, never seen it, never went to it every year. So my senior year, I actually got to go to a classic and experience that. And that was my first, experience of HBCUs, and I loved it. So I had a band director. He was a FAMU grad, and he told me all about his experience at FAMU. And it was just something I was interested. At first, I was like, no, I'm not going, because my environment at my school, so people who looked like me, they really didn't like school for real. So it was more so discouraging to see a lot of, African Americans in my area. They didn't want to go to college. They just wanted to go to the workforce, and that was it. But after choosing FAMU, and FAMU was last on my option, I promise he was last. I just didn't think I was going to go to HBCU. And then I toured Florida State University and I hated it. I hated it. Went to FAMU, loved it. And then my first year here, it was just an amazing experience. Just seeing so many people who looked like me, who came from different walks of life, who had different experiences, just striving to be the best. And that just pushed me to do that much better. So that's why I just love the whole experience overall, loved my whole journey, just going out there and finding that information about HBCUs. I feel like if I knew more about HBCUs, because I thought FAMU was, one of its kind. I thought it was just Bethune and FAMU. If I knew more about HBCUs back then, I probably would have applied to more, but I just applied to FAMU and that was it, out of HBCUs. But yes.
Chloe, could you explain a little bit about classics? Because I'm not sure if everyone knows.
Yes. So classic games, it goes between a lot of HBCUs. Typically, they go against their rivalry school, like their rivalry HBCU. Ours in Florida is Bethune-Cookman College. They're a private university because in the state of Florida, we are the only public HBCU. And then there's Waters College, they're private, Bethune-Cookman University, and Florida Memorial University. All three of those are private. So us and Bethune, we have a long-standing rivalry, like long-standing rivalry. And we all come out, we all meet in the middle of Florida, Orlando, and we just come out, have a great time. And, FAMU has been winning for the past couple of years. So, we brag different. I'm telling you guys, we're real cocky at FAMU. We are. So, I talk my mess with my Bethune-Cookman friends all the time.
See that rivalry though, it's good. It's good natured, right?
Yes.
How about Brittany? If you remember what that transition was like, or kind of what led you in choosing to attend an HBCU.
Right. It was so long ago. No. So I started out in public education, like K through 8th grade. And then 9th grade, I went to a Catholic high school. And I'm originally from California. I've been in New York for about 3 years now. So I'm from the Bay Area, like San Francisco, Oakland area. So my school was predominantly Asian and white. And when I decided I wanted to go to an HBCU around my 10th grade year, I told my counselor, I'm like, I want to go to an HBCU. And she was like, what is that? Like, and she kind of shut down the classes that I needed to go to. Like, well, you don't need this class, you don't need that class. You know, and I'm like, no. I need all these classes. So I did have to advocate, and my mom helped a lot to advocate for me to get into those classes. And I knew I always wanted to be a STEM major. It was either computer science, or I thought I was going to be pre-pharmacy or a pharmacy major. And all my classmates, they wanted to get into Cal, Stanford, UCLA, USC. And I was like, I really don't have a desire. I have a lot of family in the South, and I was able to have the opportunity to visit a lot of the colleges starting at like 6th, 7th grade. So when I went to a lot of campuses, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this feels like home. Seeing Black people that I think people think we're all the same, like monolithic experience, and we're not. We're all different. And when you go to these colleges, you see how, I'm from California, but you can see someone from New York, New Jersey, the Bahamas, Africa, everywhere. And it was just like, I wanted to be here. And I felt like it was a community and a family. And I think that's one of the big things about an HBCU is it's a family. And they'll come check on you if you're not going to class. And that was another thing for me. I was like, I wanted a smaller university that kind of felt like, okay, if I go missing or if I don't show up to class, they're going to know. And that was one of the things my professors would be like, okay, Brittany, where are you? And especially being a STEM major, it was really important for me to be in smaller classes. I was only a couple, there's not too many women as well, but at least it was still people of color that were in those rooms with me. And we all support each other, continue like, oh gosh, I'll be out of college almost 20 years now. And these are like, they're still my close family. We go to homecoming, which we can all talk about. A homecoming is I just left mine about 2 weeks ago. And that is a whole event in itself. And it just feels like, wow, like I did make the right decision. But yeah, so that was my thing. I really knew it from the beginning. I wanted to attend an HBCU just because I wanted to be around people like myself that were productive, and kind of like Chloe, where I'm from, not too many Black people are really going to college. So to have that experience was awesome.
I appreciate you sharing the rich diversity of HBCUs and just how much geographic diversity, ethnic diversity you're getting in these spaces, which is so fulfilling, especially thinking in that educational development of who's in the classroom with us. How about you, Liz? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in my mother's household, which was a Filipino household. But I also grew up in Elmont, New York. Elmont, New York is a predominantly Black community. My high school was predominantly Black, Caribbean, you name it. But I came to know HBCUs because, well, first and foremost, I'm a proud mid-90s baby. I was born in 95, which meant that I was going into middle school around like the mid 2000s, early 2000s or whatever. And that's when we had movies like Drumline, ATL, Stomp the Yard come out. And I was looking at these campuses. I was very much so like enamored with these stories, these communities, these just all the things. And so I started to do my own research. And that's when I started to learn about fraternities and sororities. And I was like, what is this? And then it just started to like continue building up. Like it had a snowball effect on me personally, because I was like, if I'm having this really cool experience here in Alma amongst my classmates, and it's a predominantly Black institution, because also too, when it came time to applying for colleges, guidance counselors at my high school were not talking about historically Black colleges and universities. They wanted us to attend state institutions, community colleges, which are all phenomenal institutions, but also because that was back then, those types of colleges and universities were centered around, the best way to get funding, where are the resources to access those types of funding? And that was a part of that repertoire of resources that my high school had at the time. But when I pitched for HBCUs, interviews, nobody really helped me with that. And so kind of like Brittany, I had to advocate and figure out for myself what it would take to get to a college or a university like the ones I was seeing in the movies. And really, Howard was my number one choice. I heard about Spelman because at the very end of ATL, Nunu was like, I'm going to Spelman. I didn't know what Spelman was, but I said, she got a point. I'm gonna look into that. And so when I went to, and so I got accepted. I just applied because I wanted to see if I would get accepted. The way she was talking about Spelman, I was like, oh, this must be like some real, you know? And so I was really excited when I received my like big blue envelope. But I put my down deposit at Howard. I went to visit Howard. I was like, this university is, whoa, this is dope. I was seeing all types of Black people. And I was like, Dad, I want to go here. I even went to like the residential office and I was like, can I get a fridge in my room? Because, you know, you have to ask for those things and say you might have an allergy or something. So I was set, ready to go. I came back to New York. And then I was like, Dad, I never got to see Spelman. And this was in the months leading up to, you know, enrolling into my freshman year. And so he was like, let's drive down because I have family in Atlanta. He was like, let's drive down and see, you know, let's see what it is, what it's about. So we're driving down to Atlanta and we stop by family. Next, you know, we go to Spelman College. The campus is empty. I was like, oh, like I want to talk to students. Like, what is the experience like? This campus compared to Howard is so small. But we drove into the gates of Spelman, and immediately I was like, ooh, look at this grass. Look at this campus. This is cute. Which my freshman year, I was like, oh my God, what is going on with these dorm rooms? But we passing by the mailbox office, and I see these two students, and I'm like, Dad, stop the car. I see humans. And so I go up to them in the mailbox office. Do you know I was in that mailbox office for 4 hours talking to these students about their experience at Spelman? Right then and there, I fell in love. And I was like, I have to go to Spelman. And then I got back in the car. I was like, Dad, I'm in trouble. I was like, I know we put the down deposit at Howard, but I think I want to go to Spelman. So next thing you know, I get back to my high school in Elmont, Long Island. I have a Spelman shirt and everything. And everybody's like, hold up, Liz. You said
what happened?
So-and-so. Right. But it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And even looking back now on my experiences as a senior at Elmont, they now do HBCU college tours. They do all the things. And now it's a part of like the conversations in terms of if you want to go to an HBCU. And so, yeah, the transition was astonishing, you know, because you're meeting, I mean, I met Black girls from everywhere, you name it. I was like, you're from Kentucky. You're from Kentucky. You're from Orlando. You're from Oakland, girl. You're from Liberia. Like, it was just so many different things. But yeah, freshman year was a little bit hard, but I'm so glad that I chose to go to Spelman.
Thank you. Each of you telling your stories about kind of the journey to HBCU, it all sounded like there were these memorable moments in your HBCU journey, or for Ahmad as you finish up your HBCU journey, at least so far. You know, there's always graduate schooling going on. I'm not going to go straight to Marcus. I'm going to give you a breather. So if anyone would like to share, what has been a memorable experience for you at your HBCU? And there might have been a couple. So I'll give everyone a moment to think. And then if you want to use the raise hand function in Zoom to let me know when you're ready to share. Because I know there were a lot of memorable experiences. Yeah, Marcus, if you're ready to go first again, go for it.
Yeah. So aside from getting in to Morehouse College, I would say going to Seattle with some of my friends for an internship with Amazon Web Services. I think that internships while you're in school, in college, that's going to be something very essential for you as you develop yourself as a young professional. So we all kind of, we got our acceptance letters, I would say, like days apart from each other, but we lived in different dorms or in different apartments at this point. But when we all kind of, found out that we got in, it was very heartwarming, but also it's like, wow, like we have the same visions, and now we're going to be able to use this opportunity to work with one of the best companies, in the world. but also be there with each other and have that sense of community in a whole different state. I've never been to Seattle before, or let alone Washington. And I was out there for a whole summer with people from Morehouse, but also my friends from Morehouse. And that was an amazing experience. Just building that friendship with them in school, but then also being able to travel and like seeing some of the fruits, the fruits of our labor, really come about. That was a really amazing experience. And that's just one, like you said, Joelle. There are a lot of good moments.
And
but
Marcus, was that internship program that you're talking about specific to Morehouse or HBCUs?
no, it wasn't. So we got
Wow.
there because we had a job fair or like a career fair, and Amazon Web Services, they had a stand there. And so we all went to go speak with them. There was an older alum who came back, who currently still works with Amazon Web Services, but he came back, and there were a few people who went to the stand, but not as many as I would expect. And so I was like, yo, like they're over there talking, y'all need to go. And well, we all went, and we all have an interest in sales, and now we all still work in sales. So I think that was definitely something that I don't really think has been a normal trend, at least at HBCUs, for companies like that to come looking for talent within the HBCU atmosphere. So I think that was really one of the best things. And internships, like I said earlier, are definitely going to be a great thing for anyone, trying to get into whatever field they have in mind. So
No, thank you for sharing that. And I think that also highlights something that you see across universities, but I think is so unique with HBCUs is alumni networking, how alums come back. You're saying that it was an alum from Morehouse at Amazon coming back to the school to really connect and bring another Morehouse man over into the kind of network. And you see that a lot at HBCUs.
yeah,
So
it was really amazing.
yeah.
But yeah, and alumni come back not just for career fairs, but for anything. Alumni find any reason to come back because the sense of giving back is really is very present within all HBCUs, not just Morehouse, but I see it the same with Spelman. I have friends who go to Howard. They do the same thing. So that's really that. Like I know that being an alum is it's like a responsibility that you are glad to do in order to give back to the younger people who are in those same dorms, walking those same streets as you did. Real.
Anyone else who had a kind of unique or memorable moment during their time? Yeah, Brittany.
I'll kind of piggyback of Marcus. I had a really great mentor, Dr. Gloria Payne, and she was really pushing me, and she helped me get a National Science Foundation scholarship, which was really great. And she pushed me into getting an internship. So, which was awesome. I got to intern, they came back, it was like a Disney in Florida hadn't had a informational technology internship program in about 10 or 15 years. And they revamped it, and they decided to open it, post it. And she encouraged me to do it. I was very like, oh my God, I can't do this, and she was like, no, like, I'm going to sit with you. We're going to fill out the application. You're going to get all your, ducks in a row, and you're going to do it. And what was great about that, once I got accepted, there was about 13 interns. 2 of us were Black. The Black female, Black male, and he was from Norfolk State, and I was from St. Augustine's. And it was great to like kind of network with him and talk about, wow, like, we're from 2 HBCUs, and all the other interns were white, and they were from, PWIs. And we just discussed like I wonder how we got chose, from, because we're sure other students that were, or Black students from PWIs might have applied, but it was great to go and just see the connection between another HBCU and how their professor also nudged them and pushed them to apply. So again, like, and that internship opened up my world to It was a long 6 months in Florida. Chloe, I don't know how you how you can live in Florida, but it was a long 6 months in Florida. But I think interning is a great example in connecting with your professors. That's the highlight, I think, of like being at an HBCU. Is just like I said earlier, it's just they really depend on you. You're not just a number, like, because you're going to come back and you're going to be a success story for other students. And coming back and giving back and just showing them that they can do it too is always a great highlight as well.
Thank you, Brittany. Want to make space for anyone else? Liz.
One, there are a lot of memorable moments. One that I can think of in particular that I would like to share is the moment that I found myself like a part of the student activist tradition of the Atlanta University Center. And so the AUC is comprised of Morehouse, Spelman, Clark Atlanta, Morris Brown. And in 2014, when Michael Brown was murdered, the entire community came together. The student community, we all collectively mobilized ourselves to respond to the historical moment of what was happening. And we all felt really charged, and we all were like collectively grieving what was happening, and all we had were each other. But also it's the spirit, I think, of the AUC and the grounds that we were even on to, like, it just felt like it felt like a spiritual moment, I think, as a student, to be there at Spelman amongst my AUC peers, and just yeah. And I say that because we ended up marching down to the CNN Center, and I'll never forget like walking, but also hearing the helicopters flying atop to see like, what we were doing, following us from the Atlanta University Center. And that was not a short walk. I mean, that walk was about like an hour and a half or so. Like, it was a pretty long walk, but you can only imagine what it felt like to be one of maybe there was like 200 students there, 200 to 300 students, and someone had captured an image of all of us standing in front of the CNN building, just protesting. And I'll just never forget that. And I still hold on to that image of all of us. We look about this big, and I can't find myself in the crowd, but that was a moment. And then we came back, we walked back to the AUC, we had a vigil, and we just held each other. We sang. I know students who were writing about that moment in papers. That moment also inspired me to take up media as one of the main themes in my work that still continues on today, in terms of not just representation, but just be within, beyond, all around, the apparatus that is the media, and how it is super influential in the things that we do. But that was one of the most memorable moments that I have. And it was such a joy. It was a pleasure. It was everything to be with my classmates from Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, like Spelman, everyone, even alumni coming back, folks who are in the area of Atlanta, being there together on campus. It felt like a different kind of safety that I needed at that point in time. But it felt like I was a part of something much bigger than what was happening right there on campus. It felt like that bigger thing that was happening was connected to something that came before us, and something that was going to determine, the futures ahead of us. And so, yeah, that historical moment was life.
Absolutely. There's a multi-generational interaction that happens, I think, on HBCUs more than predominantly white campuses, because you have that history of activism embedded into so many of these campuses, these colleges. So we talked a little bit about memorable moments, but I would also love to hear about traditions on your campuses, on your alma maters or your current school, that you find to be a really defining moment for your school community. And Chloe, I saw you smile immediately. So I would love to go to you if you want to share a tradition at FAMU that you think really encapsulates who it is.
Yes. So FAMU is all about community, right? We're all about family. I was about to say family, because that's something we always say. We always say family.
Of course.
Yes. But something I love is, well, most HBCU campuses have it, but we have something called Set Friday. And it's every Friday from 12 to 3 p.m. So what the university decides to do, they decide to reward our students for being hardworking students all week long. So from 12 to 3 p.m., we have all the clubs, students, organizations. We're all out on the set. And we also have a set market going on. So all of the students who have any businesses, right? They can set up a tent and set up a shop there, sell to the students. I have a friend, he has an essential oil business. Another friend, she sells like paintings. She sells paintings, antique items, hair, nails, you name it, right? So we're always out there on the set, just having a good time, right? Networking with other students. I've met a lot of new people on the set. Now it's not really on the set because one of our alums, Will Packer, he's a movie producer. He actually donated an amphitheater. He built an amphitheater on our campus. So it's called the Will Packer Amphitheater. So we have Set Friday on the amphitheater now. So that is just something that is just, a long standing tradition at FAMU. Everyone knows about Set Friday. Everyone loves homecoming Set Friday. It's crazy. It's totally different. Like there's no space, no room. And, everybody comes out, all the alums from way back in the 80s, the 90s, they all come back. So that's something that we all hold near and dear to our heart is Set Friday.
I love it. I feel like in New York, at least, we don't get homecomings as much. So homecoming is such a huge tradition. I always love seeing people's photos. Ahmad, I'm going to go to you, and you don't have to talk about homecoming, but I'd love to hear some Howard traditions or what you feel is a Howard in particular tradition.
That's actually a great question. I am actually the last person to ask this question. I can't lie, like my Howard experience and whatnot, I've definitely spent not a lot of time being social, I want to say. I still haven't been to as an undergrad, I haven't been to a single Howard party. When I was in high school, that was them reacting. When I was in high school though, I definitely visited with my brother and I went to a few parties and stuff, but like in terms of the social scene, I'm not good at it. I'm terrible at it. But I do know that there are a few things like, just at Howard we have Blackburn, right? We have Blackburn, that's a student center. And at Howard, where everyone comes to eat and hang out is Blackburn. And just like getting Punch Out, which is like basically the equivalent of like a mall, right? Like when you have the mall, different places to eat, like that's the equivalent of Punch Out. So everyone kind of goes there to hang out and just like enjoy each other and whatnot. Doing stuff like that is definitely more my speed. Like I definitely,
Everyone has a college experience differently, right?
Yeah,
so you
sure,
have the big social pieces for some folks, and then you have those smaller, intimate gathering spaces as well.
For sure. But yeah, that's a big one. Punch Out and Blackburn. That's where we are now. That's where the esports lab is.
So you're saying the food is good also.
Yes, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why. I feel like sometimes people just lie because they go here. That food is so good. Like, I can't lie. Like the food at Punch Out, the food at Blackburn Calf, like place where like the buffet, like that food is good. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, I definitely think I enjoy it because I live off campus. But but it's really nice and kind of hanging out with everyone and seeing everyone together. It's I guess one of the biggest things that I've enjoyed about my experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. For our other panelists, are there any kind of school-specific traditions that you want to share with our attendees?
Yes. And then Marcus, you got to talk about NSO. I'm sorry. Like, I don't even know Marcus, but I know even Marcus and look.
You got it.
That's at least one of my favorite for Morehouse. But yeah, one of the traditions, let me see. Okay, so there's one tradition where as a first year on campus in the first few weeks, it might be different now, but when I was there, we were on campus, the first year students, and we couldn't leave. We had to stay within the small gates. It was a rite of passage. But towards the end of that, towards the end of our residency, we go to Sister's Chapel, and it's the entire first year class. And one by one, each Spelman student stands up and says their name, and then we say an affirmation for the collective. Wow. And that moment is special for me because I'm like, at first I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? There's like a few hundreds of us. We're going to really sit here and go through every student. we go through every student. But the
Wow.
way that that moment then connects to a full circle moment that happens 4 years later, for me was at Spelman, we also have another tradition. We have an organization or a club called Resonance. And essentially, it's kind of like this oral storytelling group of Spelman. And we kind of function as like griots in a way. But during commencement, I was part of Resonance. And essentially, we're like telling a story and we're talking about Spelman. And it's like a Spelman woman, etc. But in that moment, and I'm up there with like my best friend of class of 17. But in that moment, I look out and I see the same women, now women, who were there with me in that first earlier night of Sisters Chapel, where we were based essentially like, affirming ourselves into this sisterhood, into this collective, or siblinghood. And just to see 4 years later where we are now, at that point in time, people have accepted, had new acceptance letters from jobs, from schools, PhD programs, law programs, study abroad programs, you name it, tech. People going on to do another 2 years at Georgia Tech because maybe they had like, that program that would make them do 3 years in the AUC, 2 years at Georgia Tech, what have you. But it's just a special full circle moment to see everybody again, but to see how much we've grown, and just to see on everybody's faces like, here we are back at Sisters Chapel. No longer are we freshly entered into the gates of Spelman, but we're now about to freshly enter the gates of the world. And we're leaving transformed. We're leaving as Spelman women. We're no longer Spelmanites. And so, yeah, that's one tradition, or a couple of traditions that I'm thinking about.
I love. And Marcus, Liz put you on the spot. So apparently there's a tradition at Morehouse that you have to talk about.
Yeah, it's called NSO, or New Student Orientation.
Okay.
And it's like a week of events that are catered towards making you learn more about Morehouse. So another time where it's very special to me. They, in our dorm, we had to learn this song, dedicated to Morehouse. It's called Dear Old Morehouse. And they in my dorm, it's like the first week, and there's a loud, obnoxious banging on my door at like 5:30 in the morning. And they're like, yo, like, this, get up, it's time to go. And they, like, everybody goes outside. We're all tired. We had to run around the campus talking about, I got my brother's back. Like, it was really crazy. And during the time, we're like, why are we doing this? Like, what did we sign up for? But it, like, every time I talk to someone, now, like, we really do just like laugh about it. And we're glad we did it. And we have pictures from it and everything. And it was really like, it brought us together, and we had to learn a song, we had to run around campus. We were holding candles and whatnot. And it was a really cool time. And then there's this event finally called Olive Branch, where everyone in the AUC gets to meet, and we all have these shirts and whatnot. And it's like a big, like a fun day, because the whole week we weren't really supposed to be seeing anyone from Spelman or Clark. So like, that's like the introduction. But NSO is definitely a good moment, and I hope other schools do that too. But that is a really good time for the AUC.
And yes, and we also have to talk about how y'all break the internet every year with your entering classes, first year classes, because they, like, with the song, all of the first year Morehouse students, y'all are like wearing these white shirts, but the students of Morehouse, the men of Morehouse, are standing in like parallel lines, and the students like walk through them as they're singing and like holding each other, right, Marcus?
Like,
Right? And they're singing to them.
Yeah, I did that.
I got a feeling. Somebody trying to keep in my house,
So
Morehouse. And every time I see it on Instagram, because I've never experienced it, because I mean, as a woman student, like, but like every time they break the internet, and I also just get so emotional when I'm watching them walk through, they're like older Morehouse, like, brothers. And so it's just, yeah, that's one of my favorite traditions as an outsider.
Really cool. I agree.
I imagine it's funny now, but I can't imagine waking up as a college student at 5:30 a.m. was funny then.
No, it was insane. It was actually insane.
But looking back, those memories feel strong.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened now. But during, I was like, what is going on?
How about you, Brittany? Were there any traditions for either of your schools? Because you have two HBCUs under your belt.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's very similar. I always like Liz and Marcus. I always admired. I have some little cousins that go to Spelman right now, but how they enter and they dress in, well, you guys dress in all white, I believe, right? I can't remember. Yeah. And then when you leave, like, and Marcus, the same thing. We don't have anything, those traditions at the schools I attended, but I just wanted to highlight, because we were talking about homecoming, but the importance of like the homecoming queen. And then you have Mr. Freshman, and and I was able to be like, well, Miss Delta Sigma Theta, but it's a whole court, it's a whole thing. Like, so when we talk about homecoming, it's also a family gathering, but it's also a whole production. Each HBCU has a homecoming queen, and I remember growing up, you would see them in like Ebony magazine, like all these like beautiful Black girls, well, or young ladies that were HBCU homecoming queens, and I just thought it was like really beautiful. I didn't know what it took to be one. I'm not doing all that, but to see the production behind it and how you get to come on the field, and there's Mr. Freshman, there's Miss Freshman, the sophomores, juniors, seniors, it's just like one big culminating week. And I think we always see the big party on Saturday. But yeah, so the homecoming court is a whole thing, and we didn't talk about the band culture, which we can talk. I think everybody has a band culture, but I think that's the best part of a football game.
Band culture is big.
Yeah.
My mother went to Southern University, so I am deep love for the band culture at HBCU football games. The way that people are able to create like popular music for this huge band, it's amazing to see. So I want to actually get to some of the questions that are in the chat, because we have some folks who are asking some questions. So I want to get to the first question as someone who is new to learning about HBCUs, grew up outside of the United States, and kind of wanted to get your perspective of going from, a lot of you shared being at either a predominantly white institution or a very diverse institution, going to an HBCU. Then what was that transition like, going from an HBCU into the professional setting that might not be predominantly Black anymore? Were there struggles? Was it kind of smooth sailing, actually? Love to get your thoughts there on what that transition was like for you all.
I just want to quickly share a stat from the White House Gov. Regarding this, but funding is a major issue for HBCUs. I've got to be honest, but that has always been the challenge. However, HBCUs have produced 40% of all Black engineers and 50% of all Black lawyers in America. 70% of Black doctors in our country attended an HBCU, and 80% of Black judges are alumni of these schools. Those are the statistics. Those are the numbers for you also, just so you all know, in terms of what HBCUs produce and how, yes, it's always going to be a challenge after leaving undergrad, but the numbers are there for you, y'all. The HBCUs do transform lives, and HBCUs have been pivotal in producing some amazing, rich Black intellectual traditions. So yeah, I just want to give you all those stats, and you can look it up if you would like. It's whitehouse.gov.
Thank you, Liz. And absolutely, a lot of HBCUs have graduate level research, medical schools affiliated with them, medical school partnerships with them. So there's a robust pre-professional development in a lot of our HBCUs. Brittany, it looked like you were about to share something as well, or?
Oh, yeah. Well, being out of college for a while, but I've had experience, and I think that is a myth that we can't, because we came from an HBCU where I don't know what people are assuming, that one, our education is not as good as, I'm trying to use the right word, but people like, oh, well, you went to a Stanford versus you went to St. Augustine's University. I've never heard of that school, but I've gotten jobs over people who have attended those schools. So I also believe it's also who you are and your work ethic. And I think being at an HBCU, it teaches you and empowers you that, yes, we are Black, we're here together, but we do have to work 100 times harder than anybody. And you're also putting your school's name on for the reputation of your school when you go to these jobs and you perform well and you do these things. And I've never had to like really worry about what's the word, like saying like, I'm always proud that I went to HBCU. And it's like, oh, really? You did? And it's like, why are you surprised? You know, like those type of things. I don't understand where that comes from. And I feel like that's a stigma that we kind of have to like shake and let people know, like Liz said, you know, the statistics are there, especially like I said, I'm a STEM major. So I already knew like I needed that extra support and that little, you know, and it breeds, we're very confident people. So when we go into any space, it could be Black, it could be white, it could be Latino, it can be Asian. I think for the most part, we're going to own it. And that's what it did teach me, is be proud of who I am. And so when I go into any space, it doesn't matter. I don't really worry about what other people's educational credentials are. I'm not really bothered by that.
Thank you both for sharing. I want to also remind folks, if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A box. I have a special shout out for Liz and all of the amazing things you've said, but I know that applies for all of our amazing panelists. Liz, in particular, you mentioned that there was maybe a bit of a difficult transition first year. I find first year of college can be difficult for everyone, that transition. So to you, Liz, directly, but also open to anyone else on the panel, if you experience some difficulties in the transition to college in your first year, if you could share what that was like, and what made it change.
Yeah, I think I was just definitely thinking about what it meant to go from a high school student to a first gen student at Spelman, and just having to adapt to a whole new social environment, a whole new city, having to adapt to the rigor of the classes, having to adapt to the fact that Spelman is, and having that common thread of like what the kind of community an HBCU is, like professors, teachers, admin, everybody on campus who is not a student is looking out for you for sure. And so, you know, if you're falling behind, if you're not having the greatest of days, if you're struggling in any type of way or capacity, people don't just let you fall to the wayside. And so it's also having to be accountable to the fact that there is a community of support that wants to see you succeed and wants you to do well, but also was like, you got to pick yourself up and go, you know. But of course you have your classmates to lean on. But yeah, no, first year was just hard because it was just new for me. And even here at Emory as a doctoral student, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I've been to school 3 times and this is hard. I'm like, it's still hard being in school. You know, it's just being a part of an academic institution. It's just it's a unique type of environment that requires just adjustment, and it requires discipline. It requires you being adaptable. But also it necessitates you to figure out why you're there. Why are you going through this anyway? You know, what is this all for? Well, are you passionate about something that you want to continue studying? You know, are you there for the network? Like, why are you there? So that's why it was difficult for me.
Thank you for sharing. I don't know if anyone else would like to share kind of what that transition was like first year, and were there any support systems? It seems like for Liz, definitely support systems were in place, but if there were any unique to your institutions that you wanted to talk about. Chloe.
Yes. So my first year was definitely difficult. I came to FAMU the summer after I graduated, and I had played in the band all my life. So when I came to FAMU, I said I wasn't going to be in the band. I did not want to pick up my instrument. I said, I'm creating a whole new image of myself. And by the end of that summer, I met some people who were in the band, and I ended up being in the band. So yeah,
How it goes.
Yes, I did band all 4 years throughout college and everything. So I was part of the Marching 100. So that made it extremely hard. So trying to manage practice every day and my academics. Mind you, when I was in high school, I didn't study. So I didn't learn any study habits like that. I would just felt like I was naturally smart, always aced my tests. So I thought that's how college was going to be. You know, I was in for a rude awakening, definitely, especially 8 a.m.s. I don't know if anybody, as a high school student, I know if you think, you might not think 8 a.m.s is not early, it's early. It's definitely early,
Feels
especially when I was coming from,
college.
yes, especially when I'm coming from practice the night before that's ending at like midnight or 1 o'clock, and I have to get up at 8 a.m. Yeah, it was crazy. So I would not advise an 8 a.m. unless you absolutely have to. If you're a science major, you're definitely going to have an 8 a.m. You're definitely going to have one or two. But yes, my support system was definitely my freshman siblings in the band, because to be in the band, you have to have a certain GPA. You have to pass your classes. And to keep your band scholarship, you have to pass all your classes, and you can't drop any classes. So that is something in college that you can do as well. You can drop a class if you feel like you're not about to pass that class, but it does it may set back your graduation date if you continue to drop courses. So my freshman siblings, after our first practice of the day, we would always go back to our residence hall, family village. We'd go in the computer lab, we would study, turn in our work, because we know when we get to second practice isn't going to finish until like midnight. So we know by then it's too late to turn in our work. So having other people going through the same thing as me definitely helped me out a lot. Having other freshmen, even though they weren't the same majors as me, like your freshman year, no matter what major you are, more than likely you're taking the same classes as other freshmen, because you got to take English, math, science, all of that. So just going through that with them, staying up all types of nights, just studying right after night practice, it definitely pushed me to do better in my classes, and it definitely helped me to succeed. So I would say a support system is definitely important in college. It is. But yes, that was more so my experience juggling band and school and 8 a.m. Oh my gosh, never again.
You're done with school and it's still haunting you.
Yeah, it's still, I only took 8 a.m.s my freshman year, and it still haunts me like every time.
Well, you spoke of that mentorship, and it would be remiss of me to not ask to talk about Greek culture on campus. I know we have two Deltas here who I'm sure would be happy to share their experiences, but HBCUs have, the Divine Nine, these historically Black fraternity and sororities, and they can play a big presence in a student's life or not be a presence at all. That's the great thing about universities. You're able to find those communities that fit for you. But for Brittany, Liz, would either one of you or both of you like to chat about kind of the experience you had pledging and Greek life?
Sure. For me, like I said, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and I always knew I was going to be a Delta. My grandmother's a Delta, my aunt's a Delta, my cousins are Deltas. So I knew that was what I wanted to be. So when you get on campus, it can be intimidating at first. You see a whole bunch of all the Greeks out, really, and it's like, wait a second, like what's going on here, and you're like, do I want to be a part of this? Do I not want to be a part of this? So for me, and I'm in education now, but I chose my sorority also because they believe in scholarship, service, and sisterhood. I'm an only child. So my line sisters are my sisters, and we treat each other, and even my big sisters, like we're really a family, and that's what I do love about it. And we support each other, and we're just there for each other. And I didn't cross until I was a junior in college. So I didn't really know some of my line sisters at all before I crossed. And so knowing all these other people, and then meeting them, I got 20 other aspects of life as well. I have 20 line sisters. So it was just great. And then even now when I like with Liz, I'm like, oh, hey, Sora, like, I don't know, I just met her, but I can go up to her and talk to her about anything. And I think that's the great thing about it, is like, you can be anywhere, you have your letters on, you say whatever, we're going to come up to you and get to know you and see, do you need anything? Like, hey, you just moved here. Like, and when I came to New York, I leaned on like sorority sisters. I didn't know anybody. So I reached out and I met other sorors and like, hey, Brittany, we got you, you know? And I think that's the great part about it is just like the sisterhood of it all. And of course we strive, like Liz, she talked about her, like the, you know, was it the walk that you guys had at the AUC? That's what we're about. And pouring back into our community. And that's what I love. It's just, I think that's the difference between people saying PWI sororities, fraternities. People will say, you're still in your sorority? You still are. I'm like, it's a lifetime commitment here. You know, it's not just a fun rah-rah drink beer, you know, party. It's really serious and we take it really, really like to heart. And I think that's the difference between the Divine Nine versus other sororities and fraternities.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, movies were a big part of the reason how I even ended up talking about Delta. I will say Black women saved me as a coming of age Black girl. And deltas helped to shape me profoundly, divinely. And I say that because even before I got to Spelman, I didn't even know she was a delta until I realized she had red all in her kitchen. And I was like, is your favorite color red? And she's like, yeah, I'm a delta. And this was someone who was helping to train me for the Miss Black New York pageant. And so I was like, who are you? I want to get to know you. But I will say that when I started to learn more about HBCUs and the different kinds of HBCUs, I started to learn that there were different kinds of sororities and fraternities. And so I had to do my due diligence because I was like, this social group, political group is very serious in the Black community. So I need to know what I'm talking about, even when I say I'm interested in joining this organization. And so I read The Divine Nine. I read a book called Search of Sisterhood. I wanted to know what made these sororities different. What were, how did these sororities even come to be? And I think that when I came across the founding Delta, I was like, oh, so it's just in the fabric that these women are badass. Like it's just they started with the Women's March. And in the early 20th century, they were about that. You know what I'm saying? And so I was really inspired by Delta's founding story. And then I got to campus and I'm looking at the girls who identified as members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're campus queen. Okay, so your older sister. Oh, okay. And so Delta graduated from Spelman. She's Ada Kappa and she works as a studio executive in Hollywood. Not a studio executive, but she works as one of the top film professionals. Oh, okay. So there's a Spelman lawyer. Oh, so you're gonna go talk to her. And so it's just like Spelman women, and Spelman Deltas were everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere I could look on campus. They were leading the charge leading the charge for initiatives for social justice, for going out into the surrounding Atlanta community from Spelman on the weekends. During the summertime, they were having reading groups. They were hosting women's conferences. They were becoming speakers. They were just doing all the things. And then I became a Spelman Delta and I was over here with a mic in the middle of campus talking about women's rights and like what it means to be a Black feminist. And so yeah, that was an interesting process too, because Black fraternities and sororities are so special to like HBCUs. Black fraternities and sororities, the Divine Nine, definitely shapes a big part of what it means to be a part of the social community at an HBCU. And so, like Brittany said, like it can be, it can be a little bit intimidating. It can be a little bit intense because they're looking at you like, okay, you want to make this lifelong commitment. What are you about? What are you passionate about? What can you bring to the organization? But also they're looking at you like, okay, we like what you're doing. We want to join you, because you grow with these women. Mm-hmm. And so the pledging process, you have to submit an application. You have to get recommendation letters. Not recommendation letters from your friends, but recommendation letters from professors, from folks that you might do community service with. Like it is an entire process. Yeah. You have to get to know the girls. And then you go through a special intimate process with Delta members, and then you become part of the organization. But there's still a very high commitment that you have to uphold. And even till today, like there are certain things that I know if I'm wearing my letters, Delta Sigma Theta, I already know that I'm not just representing Liz, but I'm representing Delta Sigma Theta, Liz, and everything else that I stand for. And so I have to act accordingly. And And there's certain things that I just will not do when I have my letters on. And that's because of the respect that I have for the women of Delta Sigma Theta, because they do not play. Even Deltas who are part of the Supreme Court, you see them on TV, you see them on social media. I said, good morning. I said, hello. You know? So yes, I love Deltas. My line sisters, even today before I got on the Zoom, my line sister came to find me on campus because she's currently she already graduated from Howard's Law School, but she's now getting another law certificate from Emory, and she came to visit me. I was like, I'm talking about Spelly today. And so that was nice. My AFAM studies department, they're like, hey, we have students who are part of this program called Visiting Laney. They're graduating from their undergrad program soon, so we have to talk to them. So it was me and my cohort members, and we're sitting with our professor and 3 students from Visiting Laney. One of the girls is my Neo. And so I'm like, girl, I know you. And she's looking at me smiling. I'm like, I see you. I see you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm just like, yeah, there's like this infinite connective thread that connects like the women in our sororities, especially Delta, that I just really love and am enamored by, I'm inspired by. It keeps me going, you know, and the reason why I'm like, when I have dreams of seeing what I can be one day, or the things that I want to do, or the lives that I want to impact, or the cultural institutions that I want to build, I'm like, part of that is going to be the work of Delta, you know, and so it matters. It really does matter. And I'm so thankful because I'm here today because of that collective sisterhood. So yeah.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for sharing today. I want to be mindful of time, so I would love to end. If you all have any pieces of advice or notes of wisdom for our students, you know, we have 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, our seniors and their families in this Zoom. So they're all in different stages of starting to think about college, applying to college. So if you have any advice that you could share with them, I know that they will appreciate it. Yes, Chloe.
All right, so I'll go first. One piece of advice that I would share is start your journey early. Like when you're looking at HBCUs, I know the stigma did used to be, you know, it was easy to get into HBCUs. Nowadays, it's not. It's not at all, especially a school like FAMU. Just when I was in high school, I believe the GPA requirement to get into FAMU was a 2.5. Now it's a 3.3 and it's weighted core GPA. So they're only looking at your core classes. So that could be a totally different GPA than what's on your transcript, right? It is highly competitive to get into FAMU as well. Last year, I believe we had over like 35,000 applications. We could only accept 4,000 students, right, at FAMU. So it's definitely competitive to get into the HBCUs nowadays. Everyone is doing what they need to do. So you're not only competing against students at your school, students in your area, you're competing against students all over the world. So HBCUs aren't a last option anymore. Making sure your SAT or ACT scores, taking it over and over again, because most of our schools do super score. We do take the highest subsection scores out of like all of the times you take the test as well. I would definitely say do that. Compile your list while you're in your junior year, knowing where to apply. Definitely apply to outside scholarships, a lot of outside scholarships. I got about over $50,000 worth of outside scholarships just from Thurgood Marshall College Fund and United Negro College Fund alone. Like those 2 websites alone. I never used FastWeb or Raise Me. I thought those are fake, so I never used those. Yeah, it's just definitely, just like they said, Divine Nine organizations, they give out scholarships a lot. Like a lot of money comes through there. FAMU, we have local alumni chapters literally everywhere. And they give out scholarships as well if you say that you're going to FAMU. Those are your best friends. Always be in your college and career advisor's office, like every day. You know, you didn't hear from me, but you know, high school, I used to skip class my senior year, but I would be in the college and career advisor's office, and I would be applying for scholarships every day. I made sure I passed my classes though. But those lunch periods, don't be like me. Yeah, use the lunch periods. So lunch periods, I was always in her office applying for every single scholarship I've seen, because high school students are lazy. Like 80% of the scholarships that I got were because nobody applied. Like that was literally the reason. Once a career advisor told me that nobody applies to these scholarships, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the initiative and apply. And most of the people that awarded me the scholarships, they told me it was because nobody applied. And I was like, all right, I'll take the free money. And that's why my first 2 years, they were paid for because of straight scholarship money. So, and all of that money goes back into your pocket. So say your tuition is like $10,000 and you have 20 or $30,000 worth of scholarship, they deposit it right to your account. So, you have some extra spending money for homecoming. So yeah, or to pay your tuition for that next year. But that's my advice to you all.
Thank you, Chloe. And we've all talked today, or our panelists have talked today, kind of about that experience going from high school to college. And I'll speak for myself as well. I didn't have as robust of college counseling and guidance in my college admissions process. And I think the privilege and benefit of all of the students attending is we have robust offices. This is exactly what Chloe is saying. This is this first step of learning more about the colleges and universities that are out there. And all of the college counseling offices across our 4 schools have robust programming to make sure that you are on track. I promise FastWeb is actually real. Chloe, I promise it's real, but that you are all on track and ready to go. And this is exactly the first steps that some of y'all should be making attending this panel. So thank you, Chloe. Marcus, how about you?
Yeah, Chloe definitely touched on a lot of good points. I was gonna say in terms of, so yeah, coupling that with the scholarship piece, I think going to the schools, if you guys know about any college or statewide or even like countrywide college trips, I know some schools are doing that. I would suggest you go to those because that is truly where you get the best feeling for the school. You could have people like us talk to you about it, but you're not going to really know or see how you vibe with it until you go there, or even spend like a night in the city, or especially if you know somebody at one of the schools. That's definitely a great way to get into like the culture that you would be getting ready to be at for the next 4 years. So going there, physically seeing the school, physically talking to people who currently go there, that's like the real best way for you to really feel comfortable and get excited for where you're going to spend the next 4 years of your life at. So yeah.
Absolutely, Marcus. And as Liz shared, she was going to go to Howard before visiting Spelman. Those visits, those opportunities to connect with students, whether it's on campus or off campus, so essential. Ahmad.
Yes. A few pieces of advice. For me to high school students, even middle school students, any of you guys, make sure that you are volunteering, going out and doing things. Build up that, well, for you guys, if it's a resume, even if it's just a list of activities that you've done, because when you do apply, a lot of schools, they want you to be a person. They're going to look at your grades and say, okay, that's good, but like, who are you? Like, what did you do? What do you care about? Volunteering and doing those things in high school, middle school, whenever, they really, really do amount to a lot. I got into Howard with a 3.1. Now, I am a legacy, but my mom was so on me for these volunteer opportunities. I mean, oh my gosh. To this day, I'm still taking off stuff that's years old. So make sure that you're getting out there and you are a person when you go to those HBCUs. And of course, as well, and this is like this is a different sort of hack that a lot of people are doing, in college now, but make a LinkedIn account and literally find someone that goes to that university and talk to them.
Ooh.
Get on LinkedIn and find someone that you know from where you are and talk to them about their experience. Because I promise you, they will tell you how it really is. Like these recruiters, they'll tell you whatever, whatever. Everyone will say whatever, whatever. But if you get someone in your exact major doing exactly what you want to do, that goes to your university, you ask them, how is it? I'm telling you, they will tell you exactly what you need to hear. that is something that you need to do. And if you even go farther and ask them how they got into the school, that's even more useful. Getting connected in those ways will make the difference for where you want to go, not being blindsided, but also knowing what you have to do to get there. So those are my piece of advice.
Nice little LinkedIn hack there, Ahmad. But absolutely getting the pros and then also sometimes the not so pros. There's always going to be kind of downsides or areas that we wish were better at any institution. So getting that full picture before you decide to commit, so important. So Liz or Brittany, if you all have any advice.
Well, I was gonna say everybody pretty much touched on everything, but while you're in school, don't be afraid to change your major.
Ooh,
I think my first year I was forcing it. I was trying to do this pre-pharmacy organic chem. I was like, this is not for me. And I was like, I love math, I love computer, and I was like, okay, the computer science, computer engineering, that was my route. But I was really nervous and scared because you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? I want to graduate in 4 years. I want to do this. I want to do that. Don't rush either. School isn't going anywhere. So I would just say, don't be afraid to really explore. And I think that's a part of the college experience, is finding out who you are and what your real interests are instead of other people telling you what you should be. So it's a great opportunity to really, and even before you apply to colleges, I think we should start thinking about what you really want to do. Again, I'm in ed tech now. This didn't even really exist 10 years ago. Yeah. And who knows what's going to be out there 10 years, 5 years from now. So all the majors and academic departments, everything academics are evolving. So I just think, just have an idea of what you want, but if there's something else that comes up and it's something that you want to try, do it.
I cannot agree more, as someone who also changed her major a couple of times through the college process, through applying to college, and then once I was in there as well. And Liz, do you want to take us home here?
Yeah, just echoing what everyone else said, get started early. I know specifically for Spelman, if you're applying and you need financial support, talk to financial aid. Go to financial aid. Get on the phone with financial aid. Go and meet folks in the departments that could give you the support and resources you need. If there are special groups on campus, special collectives, special orgs that could extend funding, get to know them, get their contacts, and kind of like I think Ahmad said with LinkedIn, clean up your social media, because folks are really looking nowadays to see how you're portraying yourself on the web and on social media. So please clean up your social media. And one of the other things is be very strategic about your personal statement, your essay. Because they're going to be reading a lot of essays. Tell a really good story, not just about who you are, but about what you want to do and why you want to do it at that school and why that city. Try to tie it to something bigger to help yourself stand out in terms of your narrative and your story. And then the last thing I want to say is also like what you want to do, go for that. Write about that. Allow your passion to speak for yourself, because that will be the thing that will translate through the paper for the person that's reading. And so, yeah, those are the big things that I wanted to say, but definitely please reach out to financial aid offices and make sure, as Chloe said, to apply to those scholarships, because funding is a big thing for HBCUs, but if you can get in early, be strategic about what you need to do, talk to the right people, find the right support, you can get there. And then once you graduate from an HBCU, you're set. You should be set, especially if, like also what Brittany said, especially if you do what you need to do for yourself, because the school is not just you. You are a part of that school and you have your own journey, your own dreams, and your own purpose. So that's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Liz. And especially for the seniors in here, I hope that they heard that, of being specific as they write their school supplemental essays. I'm sure you've heard it from all of your college counselors by now, but that specificity of doing your research, just like attending these panels, connecting with students, So, so important. So I want to thank all of our panelists again so much for coming and spending time with us on this Tuesday afternoon/evening. It's been so, so great to hear your stories, to share your experiences and memories of your time at your HBCU, and you did them proud. So thank you all so much tonight. If we could get a round of applause virtually for our panelists. Thank you all. And I know there were a couple of questions in the chat. We are recording and we'll send out this recording to you all later this weekend. So best of luck to everyone who's in the midst of applications. For our juniors, our sophomores, and our first-year students. We'll be seeing you throughout this process, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye, everyone.